Good evening. Welcome into Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday evening, the last day of February 28th, 2019, as we get ready for the National Championship Tournaments to begin. I am your host, Dave McHugh, and we hope you will tune in and join us throughout the shows. We got plenty to talk about as we get ready for the National Championship Tournaments, as we said. Got questions for us? You can tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, dave.mchugh@d3sports.com, and you can also, of course, join us on Facebook at facebook.com, where we are simulcasting the show. We are also simulcasting on Periscope. You can also chat in our chat rooms, whether they be YouTube, Facebook, wherever you may be watching us. We hope you will take advantage of that, and we look forward to having you participate. We've got quite a bit of shows to talk about tonight. We have a number of guests. We also have some predictions. We'll give you the list of guests. We might as well make it easier. Matt Hunter of York Men's Basketball will join us here in just a few minutes. He'll talk about his team's return to the national championship a second year in a row, especially after losing so many scoring leaders from last year's squad. Bobby Hughes of Rosemont will join us to talk about the Ravens and getting into the tournament for the very first time, and the trip to Rochester and their foe Amherst. We'll then have our women's Final Four predictions. We reached out to some friends and experts. We only got a couple, but we'll get their take on women's basketball. Brian Morehouse will then join us from the number 10 Hope women's basketball program. He'll join us in what is the WBCA Center Court, talk to him about not only his team, the national championship, but certainly his work with the WBCA and more about the All-Star Game, including news on who will be coaching those teams. Brian Fisher will join us from the number 13 Oshkosh women's basketball program, talking to him about hosting the team, how well they're playing, how young they are especially, and what their expectations were this season. And then Terry Butterfield from Texas Dallas will join us. He'll talk about the trip out to Walla Walla, Washington. And, of course, plenty more, including the ASC Championship. Good to have Terry back on the program. We'll then wrap things up with the men's Final Four predictions from our friends and experts. A few more on the men's side. A few more, interesting enough, we're willing to take a gamble on the men's side than the women's, though admittedly I also was late in my request, so that also didn't help either. So there you go. That's how you can interact with us. We hope you'll take advantage of it. Todd Pedler saying it's the most wonderful time of the year. It is, absolutely. As we get ready for championships, don't forget, I'm not going anywhere. This studio will be Tournament Central starting tomorrow. We'll clean it up a little bit. I can see some things in the background that shouldn't be there, but we'll get them taken care of for tomorrow. We have Ryan Scott will join us in here. We may even get some additional help. Gordon Mann will join us on Saturday for D3Hoops.com's Whip Around as it returns after a year hiatus. Got it off the ground and took a year off. Now it's back. 5 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. This is the only place, the absolute only place that you will see and be able to see every single game when we dip into them and when we don't. We'll talk about games going on and what is keeping us interested. This is the only place you can see it. There is no other place. Imagine like NFL Red Zone on steroids to some degree. There are 64 games taking place tomorrow, and we will keep a pulse of most of them, if not all. And dip in when necessary, even split the box up if we have to. So that's how you get a hold. That's what you need to be watching. You can get everything, all your information at d3hoops.com. We'll keep you informed and up to speed. And, of course, on Saturday, we'll continue with 6 o'clock start time for the Whip Around. There's 3 women's games starting at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Not a big deal. 6 o'clock start allows us to dip into them as they are into their second halves to keep an eye on those. But bulk of the games will take place after that. So a 6 o'clock start. And, again, Ryan Scott and then Gordon Mann will join us on Saturday here in studio to break that all down. Of course, all leading up to Fort Wayne and Salem, Virginia. Fort Wayne on the men's side, Salem on the women's side. If you want tickets, and I highly encourage you go get tickets, they are on sale. I know they're on sale at Manchester Athletics website for the men's side, and I believe through Ticketmaster and all those other fancy ways of doing it. And on the women's side, they're on sale, I believe, at Roanoke College Athletics website, plus every other way you would normally do it. On the men's side, of course, it is at Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. Sorry, have to get that all in my head right. And that is in Fort Wayne. with Manchester the host, and of course the city of Fort Wayne as well. I want to thank our partners at Visit Fort Wayne for being a part of the show, and so go get your tickets. Of course, with the women, it's at Kreger Center on the campus of Roanoke College, not at the Salem Civic Center, which is a perfect environment, to be honest, for the women's game. And, of course, the hosts are ODAC, along with Roanoke, and, of course, our friends at the city of Salem. Get your tickets today, and we hope you will think about going out. Even if your team is not in the hunt, it is worth it, especially the All-Star Games. Of course, the first one for the women's will debut. And again, Brian Morehouse will be on the show later, and he actually tells us who will be coaching those teams. It is a must-listen. You want to hear who those coaches are. I don't think you'll be surprised, but I think you will be pleased. So there you go. That's how we're getting things going today. There's nothing to talk about games being played because no games have been played in the NCAA tournament. Yes, there are some events like the ECACs that are taking place, but we're not focused there right now. We're focused on the NCAAs. Yeah, I think some people are still stinging a little bit over some of the decisions on the women's side of things. There was, I think, some... Listen, the Trine Thomas More one, I dug a little bit deeper in behind the scenes, and I think it came down to this on the women's side. They were stuck. They didn't know who to send there specifically. I think we can hem and haw over it. Yeah, Hope might have been a good choice, but then you got to send Trine somewhere. Maybe Trine goes to Wartburg. I think we're still going to be rolling our eyes at Trine Wartburg to some degree. Regionally ranked-wise, I mean, they could have sent Transylvania there, but then Transylvania's the number 2, and now you're going to have Trine host. I don't know if that's necessarily any better, because now you have literally the 1 and 2 in the Great Lakes sitting in Thomas More. It is not ideal. I still wish we could have found a better way to do it than have 2 top 5 teams meet in the second round. Granted, those top 5 rankings having absolutely nothing to do with this. But having talked to quite a few other individuals about it, I think the committee found themselves in a spot for two things that caused problems. One, they didn't have enough time to really dive into it. Yes, you would want them to have more time. Well, if we're going to need more time, we're going to need teams to stop playing on Sunday afternoons. They've got to be playing done by early Sunday afternoon. They can't be playing at 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. It doesn't allow the committee enough work. They spend enough work just trying to get teams selected properly to then have to then bracket. Bracket's going to take the hit on the time. So that's the first problem. And then the second one is, I think to some degree, maybe the selections didn't allow enough flexibility, or the women are still trying to figure out this, how much of the 500 miles they want to use. I think in some areas we see them get very diverse. I mean, Loris, DePaul, Pomona Pitts are all at Oshkosh. We've shown you other examples, John Carroll, Middlebury, and Shenandoah at DeSales, where they seem to figure that out. And then there's other examples where they don't. And I think they're still at that crossroads in figuring it out. Maybe some extra time in bracketing would help. But those are the 2 reasons we have it. I wouldn't say it's unavoidable, but I also know it's also tough. And that's about the last I'm going to say about it. I don't envy these committees. They're forthright with us for the most part. They're honest with us for the most part, best I can tell. And I think it's an unfortunate scenario that Trine has taken on Thomas More. But it is what it is. They're going to have to play at this point. And to be honest with you, if you look around the first and second rounds of the tournament, there aren't a lot of easy matchups. And that's because women's basketball has gotten so much better, especially at the top and middle, that is making the first rounds competitive. And, of course, on the men's side, it is extremely competitive. There are going to be upsets only because we deem them to be upsets. It does not mean there are teams out there who cannot compete. Will Rosemont beating Amherst be an upset? Yeah, that would probably be a prototypical upset. But there's other games out there that look like upsets that aren't, because there's so much, and we haven't used this word a lot in recent weeks, but there is so much parity in Division III men's basketball. More is coming in women's. It is definitely thick in men's. And while we'll see the predictions later, and I think a lot of people expect the top teams to get to Fort Wayne, I should say, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a whole weird class there of teams, because I think it's just that good a bracket and that good a tournament, and there are that many good teams. I changed my first place vote. If you tuned in Monday, you would have heard that, I think. I barely got through it. But I moved to Whitman off of Nebraska Wesleyan. I have loved the way Nebraska Wesleyan's played most of the season, but they have had too many close games. They are not controlling teams like I'm used to seeing and I decided to go with Whitman, who seems to be more in control. Remember, this is a Whitman team that gives us a direct correlation. So does Nebraska Wesleyan with Loras. Whitman's got Whitworth, and when I see Whitman absolutely dismantle a team, whether they're playing them the first or the second on the weekend, and I see Whitworth struggle more, it tells me Whitworth isn't as strong, but it tells me Whitman is stronger. Whereas in Nebraska Wesleyan and Loras, I see Nebraska Wesleyan and Loras having tight games. I start to think Nebraska Wesleyan isn't as strong as I think. Now, here's the deal with Nebraska Wesleyan. I still think they're strong, one of the deepest programs in the country. But my mentality with them right now is they got to stop toying with everybody. They got to stop playing with everybody. They got to stop putting their foot down. This is the time. They got to do it now, or they're not going to be in Fort Wayne, and they're not going to be able to defend their national championship. Really impressed with what they can do. Do not get me wrong. I would not be surprised if they win it, but I decided to go with Whitman as my first place vote because of it. Jay Cozen says it's like Christmas Eve tonight, although we Philadelphia already get an early massive Christmas gift in the way Bryce Harper in a couple hours ago. Thank you, Beltway. Hey, Jay, enjoy that contract, buddy. I notice there's absolutely no outs for anybody. Sounds like everybody's stuck with a 13-year deal. Listen, he's a good player in Bryce Harper, but good luck with that. I don't know if I'd be celebrating necessarily. And Philly isn't exactly known to know what to do with talent. Anyway, back to basketball. It is like Christmas Eve. You are right. NJCU men's basketball has finally arrived in Marietta after 10 hours on the bus. I'm glad to hear they finally got there. A little later than I would have expected them to get there, but I'm glad they're there. My back hurts. Ira, I feel horrible for you. I really do. I mean, really up there with horrible. I saw earlier that Hanover's pod on the men's side is sold out. Second round tickets will be available, but they'll be sold between 1 and 3 at where is Hanover? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading that wrong. That's Randolph-Macon. I apologize. Randolph-Macon has sold out. No surprise there. Pat Coleman with a great tweet, by the way, per that news. Outstanding. If you got any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville. Email us, dave.mchugh@d3sports.com. Use the hashtag Hoopsville, et cetera, et cetera. Going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get our interviews started. Many of our interviews are pre-taped tonight, but several of them are not. The next one coming up is not. Matt Hunter will join us to talk about the York College Spartans men's basketball team. Really impressed that they're into the tournament, considering how much they lost from last year's team. But they're in the tournament, and we'll talk to Matt about it. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we get back.
Big shots. Big dunks. This trophy is not given. It must be earned. The 2019 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 15th and 16th at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum Arena in Fort Wayne.
With his third triple.
Visit ncaa.com/tickets and secure your seats today.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
March is upon us, and that means it's time for the D3Hoops.com whip around. Where else can you find the true madness that the Division III basketball bracket has to offer? Our crew will get you from one big moment to another as the NCAA tournaments start with a bang. All the action comes in a rush on Friday and Saturday, and Dave McHugh, Gordon Mann, and Ryan Scott will make sure you can follow all the big games. So why follow one game or two when you can follow 96 in just over 24 hours? Tune into the D3Hoops.com whip around show on Friday at 5 Eastern, Saturday at 6, only on D3Hoops.com.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, here on this Thursday evening as we get ready for the NCAA tournaments. Once again, reminder, tomorrow, Tournament Central is the Hoopsville studios as we get you ready for and rolling in the D3 Hoops Whip Around. We will start our coverage at 5 o'clock Eastern time here on the air, 7 o'clock Eastern, or 6 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. Of course, we didn't do it last year. Gave me an opportunity for a rare feat. I got to see essentially 4 games on Friday of the first round. I ran up to York College where they were hosting and got to see Yeshiva play in Hamilton and others. And then after the second game was over, ran down to Johns Hopkins in the middle of by the way, a brutal windstorm, and got to see Brockport and Hopkins and MIT and others play there. It was a rare occurrence, due in part again to the fact that we didn't have whip around, but because of Yeshiva being in, times had gotten shifted. To be honest, didn't think York College would be back this season. They were losing a ton of absolutely talented players, and I thought, they would take a little bit of time to rebuild in a tough, what I thought, conference. Salisbury and Christopher Newport would dominate things. Well, surprise, surprise, finishing second in the conference, really tied for first with Christopher Newport, was the York Spartans, and they got in that large pick and now are dancing with their shoes on, nice and comfy. And joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline is their head coach, Matt Hunter. And, Coach, congratulations. This is a heck of an accomplishment considering how much you guys lost from last year's squad.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a fun team to work with, and these guys just didn't worry too much about who we lost, but who was here, and just kept working to get better and see what we can do every chance we get to compete.
You guys, obviously, again, 21-7 on the season, nothing to shake a stick at. You guys started the season 3-2, then won another 3, then lost 3 of 4. But it's been that since that point when you lost to Christopher Newport back on January 2nd, where you guys seem to have settled in, took advantage of the conference, certainly, but also avoided some of the unnecessary losses. Mary Washington tripped you up, certainly, but you controlled things the rest of the way. What's the difference between that first half and that second half this year?
There's a lot. We made some adjustments, after our December games, and kind of got some things figured out over Christmas break. And guys came back, and we fought through a nice team illness. So maybe that was it. We battled that off, and we came back, played pretty well down at Christopher Newport, and kind of took off from that point. And the guys we just really focused on going one game at a time and what we needed to do, and not anything else that was going on outside of our gym.
You, again, only lost to Christopher Newport and Mary Washington in that span since January 2nd and had a lot of games. The last bit, kind of a lot at home. You controlled most of February at home with only 3 games on the road, 2 in conference in regular season, and, of course, on the road against Christopher Newport in their championship game. You certainly seem to have CNU's number a little bit when it comes to even matchups and how you guys play against them. What worked during the regular season? What didn't work in the championship game?
Yeah, I think we've played now 6 times over the last 2 years, and every game's been really close. In the first 25 minutes or so were the same way on Saturday, and then it went on a great run, and we just weren't able to answer back this time.
When you look at, again, you guys, 3 1,000-point scorers from last year's team, something along those lines? A lot of talent. Some guys had to step up. Who changed their roles on this team, and how did that affect things on the overall scheme?
Yeah, I think, anytime you graduate players like Matt and Dalton and Blade, you're going to have to make some adjustments. And I think that's something that all the great programs do around the country is, players graduate. There's no long-term contracts. So you have good players graduate, and you have good players waiting in the wings, and you have good players coming in through recruiting, and each year is a different team. And what you did the season before really has absolutely no impact on what this season is gonna offer to us. So it's those guys' jobs to develop and grow, and we certainly had other talented players here that were ready to step into bigger roles and start making plays at an elite level for us.
You have 4 guys in double figures, led by a senior in Jason Batty, and, of course, then 3 juniors, Jared Wagner, Darren Goodwin, and Joey Palzinski. 18.5 points for Batty, down to 10.5 points for Palzinski, and, of course, the guys rebound as well. All 4 of them are 4 rebounds or better. That's a nice core group to have, certainly. Obviously, 3 of them coming back, but that core group seems to be the tough part. Defense is going to have to pick a poison almost.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Beatty had an incredible senior year, and, he draws a lot of attention. And then Wagner and Frauenheim and Gordon and Polchinski and Novick and Giuliani, and different guys come in and play different roles. And, they're ready to do what every game requires. And each game is different, and each matchup is different. And, they're just ready to go out on the floor and compete and do what we have to do in order to be successful.
Your rotation's interesting. You'll go about 6 deep most games, 7 deep really, if you count Nolan Smith, who's played in 27 of 28 games. And then there's a lot of guys who've played in 18, 19, maybe 14 or 15 games. What's dictated either you going with a short bench or going deeper? Again,
matchups and kind of what we like on a given day. And, again, you get in the league play and things kind of naturally tighten up a little bit. And, we play in an awesome league in the CAC against some really, really good teams and a lot of veteran teams with really good players coming back. And so, again, that kind of dictates who's ready to play on the road in January and February. Our guys did an awesome job adjusting as we went through the season.
You played 2 teams that are in the NCAA tournament, in Swarthmore and Christopher Newport. Obviously, Swarthmore got your number pretty good back in early January, or I should say late December. I'm sorry. It was early January. It was a Christopher Newport game. Can you take anything from those games to prep for what is ahead of you in DeSales at Randolph-Macon, or is this kind of fresh?
Yeah, I mean, those December games, forced us to grow up and make some adjustments and kind of figure ourselves out. They have a lot of responsibility for where we are now and who we are now. So you learn from every opportunity that you have to compete. And certainly I think the battles that we were in during league play really kind of hardened us and sharpened us and got us ready, hopefully, for, the moments that we'll be in this weekend.
You got DeSales ahead. What do you make of the Bulldogs? What do you expect from them, and what do you expect from the game, essentially?
Yeah, obviously, Scott's done an incredible job building the program, and so you're playing against an incredibly well-coached team that has won a ton of NCAA games in the last 10 years, and they're ready for this moment. And it's 2 good teams that are getting ready to compete tomorrow afternoon.
Last time I think that a CAC team played at Randolph-Macon in the opening weekend, Mary Washington went on to a pretty memorable run, knocking off the home team and getting all the way to the Elite 8 before falling. It's a pretty good omen. Any thoughts of what is the Yellow Jackets' den?
Yeah, we had the opportunity to play here a couple years ago, so those upperclassmen that we've talked about are familiar with it. We played in a great tournament here against Johns Hopkins and Randolph-Macon. So the guys were familiar with the surroundings, and we had a really good and exciting practice this afternoon. And, you know, guys, again, we have a competitive group, and we're ready to step on the floor and step up to the challenge of the sales tomorrow.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how the team plays out. I assume at this point it's about having fun.
Yeah, you know, it's a fun group to be around, and they love to compete. And then that's where we kind of draw our enthusiasm and our excitement from. And, you know, tomorrow will certainly be no different for our group.
Before we let you go, at the beginning of the season, when you guys put what your expectations were for the year, was making the NCAA tournament part of those expectations? Was winning, you know, being in the fray in the conference part of those expectations, or you guys exceeded those?
I don't ever put any expectations on the board. You know, we talk about having a really good practice today and that making us better for tomorrow. And it may seem cliche, but that is 100% who we are. I've never once talked about it with our team. You know, one of the unique things with this season is we did start all the way back in September before a trip to Canada over break. So we've been going at it for a while, and we really have just focused on what do we have to do today to get better and learn from every opportunity, and that kind of put us in this position now, and I'm certainly not changing that tonight. So we just focused on having a good practice today, and we're going to go have a great team dinner here in a few minutes, and that will spur us on into tomorrow.
Very good. Matt, I appreciate the time. Enjoy the dinner. Enjoy the game. Congratulations on back-to-back 20-win seasons and NCAA tournament berths. Appreciate your time. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
No, I just appreciate you guys having us on and recognizing our program, you know, and we appreciate that, and we're looking forward to representing York College and the York community tomorrow afternoon.
Very good. Good luck. Enjoy it, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. Matt Hunter joining us here from York College men's basketball. Again, 21-7, 12-2 in conference play is how they finished, but they'll be taking on DeSales in the first round game at 5:30 at Randolph-Macon. DeSales finished 21-6, 12-2 in their conference as well in the MAC Freedom. Of course, Blue Frame Technology, the Hoopsville Hotline guests or hosts, and we appreciate Blue Frame Technology's sponsorship of our program. Before we go to break, Barry asks, is the NCAA responsible for live streaming the tourney games, or do the host schools do it? And what do we find videos for this weekend? Well, multiple things to break down out of that. First off, Turner is actually responsible for all NCAA productions. It's part of their deal with Division I men's basketball's contract for the basketball tournament. So Turner is actually responsible for all NCAA video production efforts. They are responsible to a point. They're not going to go out there for the first 2 weekends of the tournament and try and get, I mean, imagine every single championship tournament in every single division across the country. It's nearly impossible. So the schools are able to get that for free as long as they keep it commercial free to a point. But as you know, they can run PSAs, for example. But as long as they make it commercial free, they can stream the games for free. They can pay a fee if they want and be treated like a normal streaming entity. That is up to the school. We run into it on a couple of occasions here and there. As far as the links, d3hoops.com, sir. d3hoops.com. We will have a full tournament page. It's already up and running for tomorrow that you can check. We'll have all the links. And, of course, Whip Around right here. Tune in. Tournament Central right here as we will go through. This is where you will see all the games when we dip into them. You can't see all 64 games, obviously, live, but we'll keep you abreast of what's going on around the country, dip into games when necessary, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that answers your question. Turner's technically responsible for all NCAA productions, unless, by the way, somebody like CBS, ESPN, or whatever picks up a broadcast. That is, for example, the Final Four. That's where the NCAA Turner does have to step up and do those championships. Again, schools can do it, and they will be doing it, and Tournament Central will be here on Whip Around. We will get you to all the games that we find necessary, and you can find all links for all games on d3hoops.com. Hope that answered your question, Barry. When we come back, we'll talk to Rosemont men's basketball coach Bobby Hughes to talk about their huge opportunity. First time in the NCAA tournament, taking on Amherst at Rochester. It's a perfect mix of some pretty cool opportunities for the Ravens. We'll see what he thinks about it all coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school, it's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, home of Blue Gold Athletics. UW-Eau Claire has been ranked a top 5 regional public university for over 20 years. We graduate champions with the lowest debt and highest return on investment in the Midwest. Blue Gold Athletics is a Directors Cup Top 20 Division III program offering 22 sports with almost 700 student athletes. UW-Eau Claire is about excellence in the classroom, the field of competition, and the community. Are you the next Blue Gold?
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Big shots. Teamwork. This trophy is not given. It must be earned. The 2019 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 15th and 16th at the Krager Center in Salem.
Bounces right back with a triple. Great job here. And that'll do it!
Visit ncaa.com/tickets and get your tickets today.
And that means it's time for the D3Hoops.com whip around. Where else can you find the true madness that the Division III basketball bracket has to offer? Our crew will get you from one big moment to another as the NCAA tournaments start with a bang. All the action comes in a rush on Friday and Saturday, and Dave McHugh, Gordon Mann, and Ryan Scott will make sure you can follow all the big games. So why follow one game or two when you can follow 96 in just over 24 hours? Tune into the D3Hoops.com whip around show on Friday at 5 Eastern, Saturday at 6, only on D3Hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, as we get ready for the NCAA Division III championship tournaments to begin tomorrow. You can find all your information you need on D3Hoops.com. Don't forget, Whip Around again. We'll be here, Tournament Central, tomorrow, the only place you can keep track of every single game going on in Division III. Ryan Scott will be joining me. Gordon Mann will join us on Saturday as we do the Whip Around. 5 o'clock on Friday, 6 o'clock on Saturday. Of course, a lot of teams, their first time ever in the NCAA tournament. And that's the truth with Rosemont men's basketball. I had told Bobby Hughes, the head coach, who I've known for years in his time in the Centennial Conference as an assistant at Washington College, that if he ever made the NCAA tournament, it'd be an easy decision to have him on the show. Slam dunk, you could say. Well, they're in, and so I had to fulfill that promise to get him on the show. They are heading up. They are in Rochester, New York, so they're at the other Palestra that they're familiar with, and they'll be taking on Amherst. It is a heck of a combination for Rosemont, but I have a feeling they wouldn't have it any other way. I talked to him earlier today about the opportunity as he joined us in the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. He joined us earlier because, the schedule sometimes just doesn't allow everybody to be on live on a tournament preview show, but we talked earlier today. Now joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline, it's the head coach of the Ravens. No, not that team. It's Rosemont's head coach, Bobby Hughes. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us, sir.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. As I said in the introduction, I had always made a promise that you make the NCAA tournament, you get a spot on Hoopsville, and so we're coming through with that right here and right now.
I appreciate that. I think my wife appreciates it more.
Well, it's nice to know she even knows what that is. I think mine would like to forget it sometimes. So hey, you're in the tournament. Let's just celebrate the fact that you guys won the CSAC. You got in on the automatic bid. You're not getting in any other way, shape, or form. But more importantly, you're on an 8-game winning streak. Things seem to be peaking at just the right time here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking to someone else on the phone this morning, one of my friends from high school, and he had come out to my game on, I think it was January 30th, that left us at 7-12. Mm-hmm. Things were looking pretty bleak at that point, and I remember walking back to the vans to drive back to Rosemont, just thinking, how can we figure this thing out? And the fact that we've been able to peel off 8 in a row since then has been just a shot in the arm for the team and obviously for the school. And have this opportunity to go against Amherst tomorrow, it's just tremendous, all around.
Yeah, that loss to Immaculata was your 5th loss in 8 games just in the new year. As you said, you guys were sitting there at 8-12. Now you're 15-12. Or I should say you were 7-12. Got things going with Keystone. And listen, a lot of those games were on the road. You might have been home against Keystone and Wilson, but you were then on the road all but one of your next 5 games. Clark Summit, Cairn, Bryn Anthony, Wilson, Cairn again. You guys had to do this the hard way.
Yeah, and what's funny is we had just beaten Arcadia, which, obviously was a great win for the program this year, right before we played in Immaculata, and we thought, hey, maybe this is turning around. So to go out and really lay an egg that night versus the Mighty Macs was very disappointing, and I think it's a credit to the guys that we sat down and we just said, hey, there's still a path to march here. There's still a path to get to where we want to go. It's just going to take an exceptional effort and belief more than anything that we're capable of doing it. I think going into the year, we thought, hey, we're one of the 1 or 2 best teams in our conference along with Cairn. And we knew that this was a possibility, but it's sometimes hard to see that when you're sitting there at 7-12. So again, the fact that we were on the road, we've been on the road all year. If you look at our non-conference schedule, you'll see that we very rarely played at home in the first semester. We didn't have our first home game until I think it was December 19th. So getting on a van, getting on a bus, going to somebody else's place is relatively comfortable for us.
What do you have against Alumni Gymnasium for the love of? I mean, come on! You can play at home once in a while; it's allowed.
I know, but generally the accommodations at other places are a little bit nicer.
Touche. Well, that's true. I mean, it's nice to go to new places. I don't mind that at all. I get that.
And Alumni, it's an incredible home court advantage for us, the size and everything else. And it was really a quirk of the scheduling. Whoever was responsible for that, I don't know, that we ended up with that type of schedule. I think in the future I learned a hard lesson because we were 7-12 that, hey, maybe don't do it this way, down the line.
Sure. You were the favorite, if memory serves, to win the CSAC. Cairn ended up being the team that was undefeated at one point. It feels like it was a little bit of an interesting season in what was a retooled and kind of all of you learning new CSAC to some degree.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that was one of the first things that we had to kind of adjust to, just being named the preseason favorite. And obviously a lot of that is based on the fact that, we had kind of been the top team of that group in previous years, but, we never wore the target on our backs. And I think that that's a different thing, whether you're playing in league and you have some new teams. Like we went to Wilson first game of the conference season, and you could tell how much it mattered to them to play us. And we weren't accustomed to that. We weren't accustomed to being that. And I think even from teams from outside the conference, they'd say, oh, well, this is supposed to be the top team in the CSAC, whether we were playing like it or not. And that's something that I think it took a little while for our team to adjust to. I don't know if you want to call it pressure, but just that expectation that you're going to get teams, you're not going to get teams on an off night as often as maybe we had in the past.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Everyone has a new focus, as it were, on what, is ahead of them in conference play. And now that you guys had been kind of, I don't want to say the second tier in the old CSAC. You had been nipping at the heels of the top guys, the Cabrinis and the Gwinnett Mercies for a couple of years, and so I can see where those expectations were. It's interesting how you guys had to kind of understand, oh, no, the spotlight's on you.
Yeah, it really was. And, give a lot of credit to Karen and to Jason over there for really kind of embracing that mantle of being the top team and playing like the top team as long as they did. And obviously our championship game was a real battle and really just a testament to the best of what Division III college basketball could be. I'd encourage anyone to go look at the environment that Karen produced, in their home gymnasium that evening. I mean, it was incredible, and we were very fortunate to come away with the win. But I think that every time we won after that 7 and 12 point, we just gained a little bit more confidence, and I think that the guys started realizing, okay, this is who we should have been all along. This is who we should be, and some adjustments to the roster, some adjustments to the rotation, all that go into play. But ultimately, like I said to you before, Dave, they've gone out and they've taken a game plan every single night and tried to put it, into play. And thankfully, it's worked out for us.
Got a mixture of seniors and juniors kind of leading the way. 3 seniors, a handful of juniors, including Keith Blasingdale, who's leading the way scoring-wise at nearly 20 points a game. Also, one of your top assist, or really is your top assist guy in that category. A senior and Basil Thompson is second on the team in scoring. You got 4 guys in double figures. I'm sorry, Thompson has only played half the season, but Myers is who I was thinking of on the senior side, 15 points a game.
No worries.
And then Simonson at 11 points a game, so 3 guys in double figures. Sorry, Basil. And of course, near double-double from Myers at 9.6 rebounds a game. So you got a nice kind of upper-class leadership, but it also feels like that means to some degree you got to take advantage of the opportunity that's presented to you right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, Jalil's obviously been a second-team All-League guy the last 2 years, and for a team, we're not the biggest team in the world. He provides that rebounding for us on the interior and somewhat of a presence down there. And I've said to a couple people over the last week that as Keith improved this season, and he obviously, we're fortunate, he has some tournament experience being a transfer from Cabrini from the last 2 years. As he's really elevated his game and become undoubtedly, our top guy, that's elevated the play of everybody else. And it's really, I think, again, a testament to him to take, kind of hold of that mantle and really own it, not just in the games, not just because he's getting the most shots, but because he's trying to do it every day in practice.
You got Amherst ahead of you. I think I jokingly said on the national broadcast, whether you heard it or not, you guys were obviously enjoying the moment. I said to the effect that, they're celebrating this right now, except that coach is looking at that going, oh, boy. You've got to forgive the term mammoth team here ahead of you. In Amherst, who is playing just like you guys at their peak to some degree.
No, I mean, they're obviously an exceptionally talented team. When I saw their name go up there, I was actually watching the NESCAC championship game on Sunday while I was sitting around my house just thinking, hey, that maybe whoever won that game, whether it was Hamilton or Amherst, that might be where we're headed. And when I saw our name come up underneath theirs, I just said, okay, well, if you're going to go into the NCAA tournament, you might as well go in style.
Yeah.
There's an old adage that said, to avoid Western Massachusetts, we sort of did that.
You did. Just not – you avoided location.
Yeah, exactly.
You just didn't avoid. They just drag. Interestingly enough, you would have been there should, in theory, on how the pod is built, if you had been if Amherst was allowed to host.
Right.
You're at Rochester, interestingly enough, easy for me to say, which is one of the meccas in terms of arenas to go play or see or whatever in Division III. You're going to the Palestra, so you guys are kind of getting it all here with this trip.
No, it's an incredible. I told my guys that last night, and obviously being from a school outside of Philadelphia, we're familiar with another Palestra being
a little different,
basketball. And no, but it is incredibly special for us to have this experience and to play here, where so many great players, so many great games have taken place throughout the years, and it's something that I hope our guys really appreciate and playing the opponent that we're playing. But I think it's important to know that we're not playing the Amherst teams of the past. I mean, this Amherst team is incredibly talented. I mean, the thing that sticks out to me is not just how few layups are made against them, but how few teams even attempt layups. I mean, watching them, the way they defend the basket, the way they defend the paint, I mean, it's just a sight to behold. So we have to realize we're playing that team. We're not playing Aaron Toomey. We're not playing those teams from the past. And hopefully we can focus on that and, give a very good competitive effort and hopefully the ball goes in for us.
Missed a prime opportunity in the national show to say you're playing at the Palestra, but it's a couple hundred miles away.
That's right. I should have.
Darn, I missed it totally. Yeah, so obviously this is a big opportunity, but it's obviously a big opponent. How do you approach both taking the game seriously and preparing to try and defeat Amherst, while at the same time appreciating the opportunity of being there, the opponent you're facing, and the location you're playing in?
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. And I'll be honest, I have to give credit to my assistant, especially Julius Cook, for managing the experience part of it. I mean, he's been down there with food and making sure the hotel stuff's all taken care of. And when we get to the gym today, I think we're going to talk about it and, maybe pause for a second and really think about what that means. But then you have to refocus right away. And like I said earlier in our call, these guys have done a good job of taking a blueprint and really putting it into action. And ultimately, we said this going into the CSAC playoffs, that we felt in a way that we were playing with house money a little bit. And we were in a situation where, hey, yeah, maybe we were supposed to be there in October. We had some adversity. We weren't at the end of January necessarily supposed to be here. So I kind of have said to them over and over again, like, let's go make plays. Let's go have fun. Like, let's go enjoy the opportunity that we have to be in this situation, because I don't feel any pressure in terms of, beating Amherst, even though obviously that's the goal. I mean, we want to go out and compete with them, and we want to show that, hey, we're better than 15-12, and we're better than what we showed this year. And ultimately, like I said before, the ball's going to go in or it's not going to go in, and we're going to make plays or we're not going to make plays. But they're, obviously a tremendous team, tremendously talented, and I mean, Dave Hickson obviously is a legend in this sport, not just at the Division III level, but certainly is one of those guys that if you had the D3 Mount Rushmore, he'd be up there. And I know that my ex-boss, Williams guy, probably hates me for saying that.
He does. He shakes his head in agreement, but deep down he hates you for saying it. Or the other way around, one of those two.
One of those two.
And the other thing we should point out, long way from Washington College assistant coach. You finally got your program of your own, which I knew you were looking for a long time, and you made it your own, and now look where you've gotten this program. You got to be pretty proud.
Yeah, Dave, and I said this to my wife the other day. You can't say enough thanks. You can't say enough thanks to all the people that have helped me professionally throughout the years, because obviously it takes work and it takes luck, but it takes support. And from whether it's Rob Nugent at Washington College, whether it was Darryl Keckler at Drew that gave me my first chance at this level, obviously Phil Martelli at St. Joe's, where I went undergrad and was a manager back in the glory days of Jameer Nelson, whoever it's been, and there's a list that is a mile long, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those people. And lastly, the most important thing is for the players. I mean, the guys that I inherited, the Trammell Greens, who everyone overlooked, and we were 10-15 my first year, the Kewan Murrays and my captains like Nadir Stoops and Dom Scafidi, Marcus Thomas, guys like that who believed in me. And, I told them the other night, we had about 12 or 15 alums in the locker room with us after Cairn. And I just said, hey, you guys may not have a piece of the net tonight, but you have a piece of this championship. And to me, that's been the best part of this, is just the calls and the texts, not because it's congratulations for me, but it's a chance for me to say thank you back to them and thank you for just being here. It's incredible.
Well, congratulations. Feels like an understatement, but congratulations on making the tournament. Good luck against Dave Hickson and the Mammoths. I have a feeling it'll be a good game. And as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
No, absolutely, Dave. I just, again, thanks for doing this for Division III. I know you're probably tired of hearing that. I actually thought about maybe not saying thank you for once, just to switch it up on you.
Well, thanks.
But no, good luck to obviously all the teams in the tournament. I hope that everyone's healthy, has safe travels, and again, best of luck here.
Well said. Hey, good. Enjoy the weather, by the way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said I've never seen so much snow driving up to a game in my life.
Well,
But
there's
that's
going
the
to
way
be
it goes.
there's going to be snow down here, just a little bit more up there. So I hope you don't have to dig out.
It's all right. We're playing in March, Dave.
It doesn't
it's sunny
matter.
And there's palm trees swaying somewhere.
There
so.
you go. Take care of yourself. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
He is Bobby Hughes, head coach of Rosemont. They'll take on Amherst in the first round of the men's tournament at Rochester. We come back. There is plenty more ahead. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we